Hello, everyone. I have an update for you guys in the Governor Whitmer kidnapping case, the state case. So, as you know, we talked about briefly how these men had been moved from Michigan, despite the fact that they were not tried at the federal level, they were tried at the state level, and they were being held in Michigan, where their families were able to visit them more easily, their lawyers, etc. On the eve of their appeals, they were moved, all three of them, from Michigan to different federal facilities across the country. Joe Morrison was sent to Illinois. Paul Bellar was sent to Pennsylvania. Pete Musico was sent to West Virginia. And so there is now a lawsuit about why that happened and the issues it's causing for them as the deadline for their appeals briefs looms, and these men have not been able to contact their lawyers. They've not been able to speak with their lawyers, which is absolutely ridiculous. Although this entire case is ridiculous, case in point, the text messages you see here. Now, this comes from a court filing from the federal case, but it does mention the state guys as well. What you're looking at here is text messages between the FBI agent, Special Agent Impala, to the informant CHS Dan Chappell, where he's instructing Dan Chappell to obstruct justice by destroying evidence. He tells them, delete these messages. And the reason he's doing that, of course, is to conceal the evidence. So here they're talking, be sure to delete these, he says. Dan says, I have been. It's all good. Pete and him just being crazy. Pete told them I'm good. Agent Impala says, copy, best thing to do is deny and accuse somebody else like Trent. And Dan says, yes, sir, I have Croft coming to Michigan to train at Ty Garbin's place. Now, what this is talking about is these guys, the original founders of the Wolverine Watchmen, and many of the guys connected to this case were not even members of this group. The FBI informant became their second in command. He became the XO of the group and effectively took control of the group. And Pete and Joe were not really involved. They didn't show up to some of the meetings and FTXs. It was mostly Dan doing this stuff and then introducing all the other defendants to one another. Well, at a certain point, they started to get suspicious of Dan's behavior. Because lo and behold, there was actually a network of 12 informants and 2 to 3 undercover agents all orchestrating this entire thing. And so Agent Impala was instructing Dan Chappell to, if somebody accuses you of being a Fed or is suspicious of your behavior, the best thing to do is to deny that accusation and accuse somebody like Trent. Now, they'll say that they were very concerned about these men, that they thought they were dangerous men. So if you thought they were dangerous, why would you tell Dan to make Trent then what? A target of their ire by accusing him? No, so what that shows us is that they didn't think these guys were dangerous. They knew that nothing would happen if they accused Trent of being a Fed. They wouldn't do anything. They would just stop hanging out with him. So he says, the text states Morrison and Pete talked to Paul and believed Paul and Dan were federal agents. Impala's response is twofold. He says, be sure to delete these. And then he's also, we have the informant, Dan Chappell, explaining that he's bringing Barry Croft, who the government alleges was a ringleader in this hoax. He's bringing him to Michigan to train. He's not saying it was Barry's idea. The FBI is doing that. And here's the informant telling Special Agent Impala that, like, yes, I'm orchestrating things the way you want them orchestrated. It's not Barry Croft, who they called the ringleader, along with Adam Fox. It's not Adam and Barry setting up trainings in Michigan. No, it's the FBI. Counsels found further text messages from FBI handlers demonstrating the FBI asked Dan to destroy his text messages and lie to Pete Musico, founding member of the Watchmen, and accuse an innocent individual of being an undercover federal agent spying on Mr. Musico. The messages between Special Agent Impala and Dan Chappell. This, again, is PDF of they were trying to get the native metadata associated with this, that those messages were actually turned over by the FBI to the defense counsel. And they believed that they were inadvertently disclosed by the government, and they want the rest of this thread, which the government would not provide, and certain things were redacted there. So you can see Dan saying, getting it now. And then Special Agent Impala says, thanks. What's the schedule for tonight? And Dan says, continue live fire SHOOT house. We're going back to hotel tonight. I think I'm gonna get pressed. So he is saying that, like, I'm continuing this. He's conducting the training. And then he's saying, oh yeah, these guys are getting suspicious. Joe Pete talked to Paul a week 2 ago thinking I was a Fed. I've got a handle on it, he says. And the agent says, you gonna be okay? How did that SHIT happen? Oh, I don't know, maybe because you keep pushing and suggesting things to them that they're not interested in and wasn't their ideas. And that's why Pete and Joe and Paul all left the group. And that's the thing. Paul moved in July, I believe, of 2020, well before everybody was arrested. He moved to a different state and had left the group. This is just so ridiculous. We see here, according to a sketch of Mr. Musico and Morrison's property drawn by Special Agent Impala, that the FBI had installed pole cams on the property there. So that's nice. But let's go ahead and go to what is going on now, the lawsuit here. First, we have an article from Ken Silva. Whitmer kidnap inmates sue Michigan over constitutional rights violations. 2 men convicted in the 2020 conspiracy to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer have sued for being placed in out-of-state federal prisons where their ability to communicate with lawyers or prepare their appeals has effectively been eliminated. So that's an outright denial of their rights. The men, Joe Morrison and Paul Bellar, are all incarcerated in federal prisons outside Michigan, despite the fact they were convicted of state crimes. Pete Musico is in a similar situation, but his lawyer, for whatever reason, because he basically has no real effective legal representation, has not joined the lawsuit. In the lawsuit, Morrison and Bellar's attorneys detailed how they haven't been able to communicate with their clients. Quote, on the eve of their appeals, the Michigan Department of Corrections transferred plaintiffs to facilities operated by the federal BOP. No meaningful communication with appellate counsel is being allowed, and plaintiffs' rights, including their Sixth Amendment right to effective assistance, are being violated. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessels paid lip service to helping rectify the situation, but the defense attorney said they shouldn't have to go through the prosecution in order to communicate with their clients. Quote, the Michigan Attorney General, who prosecuted Morrison and Bellar and are defending their convictions on appeal, has talked about helping defense resolve said problems, but nothing changes. The Michigan Attorney General has no control over the BOP, and moreover, appellate counsel should not be required to work with and go through the prosecutors in order to speak with their clients. The situation is abhorrent. The lawyers seek a court order to have their clients transferred back to Michigan and have the government cover the legal costs. Michigan Judge Thomas Wilson, who presided over Bellar and Morrison's trial, previously expressed displeasure at the inmates being moved out of state. But after ordering Michigan prosecutors to explain the transfers, he later changed his tune. Gee, I wonder why, and allowed them to remain in the out-of-state federal prisons. The judge did not require the government to explain why these transfers occurred. Meanwhile, the so-called ringleaders of the plot, Barry Croft and Adam Fox, also have appeals pending. Croft and Fox have been subjected to similarly harsh treatment from the federal prison systems. Initially held in Michigan, communicating with the journalist about their cases, both men were suddenly transferred to Supermax facilities in February and have not been heard from publicly since. That's from Ken Silva. Now, getting to the lawsuit here that was filed. the complaint in motion for injunctive relief. Okay, so let's go ahead. We won't read all of this since this is already 10 minutes long, and I know everybody has short attention spans and everybody's busy. I'm trying to respect everyone's time here. And I thank you guys so much for listening to this. If you're still listening, I appreciate it. Please like the video and comment. That helps. And share this, please. So, yes, the plaintiffs were convicted in Michigan State Trial Court, and I should say they did not have fair trials. Everybody knows that. We've talked about it at length. They were sentenced to the Michigan DOC, Department of Corrections. Attorneys Farraone and Ambrose were thereafter appointed to represent the plaintiffs in their respective appeals. Plaintiffs have the right to effective assistance of counsel on appeal. Yes, they do. The circuit court record is enormous, and the plaintiffs' briefing deadlines are imminent, like their appeals briefs are due. And these lawyers have not been able to talk to these men at all. On the eve of their appeals, the defendants transferred plaintiffs to facilities operated by the federal BOP. No meaningful communication with appellate counsel is being allowed, and plaintiffs' rights, including their Sixth Amendment right to effective assistance, are being violated. Pete's rights are being violated too, because his lawyer hasn't even joined in this. He doesn't even care enough to effectively represent his client. So that is ineffective counsel. Plaintiffs respectfully request injunctive relief, which directs the MDOC to return them to Michigan. Plaintiff's trial garnered national media attention, with the accused portrayed as radicals, motivated by you-know-who to do you-know-what to you-know-who. The transcripts tell a different story from the national media, and so will the documentary that we are currently producing on this, as you guys know. That is going to be, well, you'll see. It's going to show what happened, and in the discovery shows what happened. The transcripts show it. You can see the perjury occur from the federal trial, the retrial of Adam and Barry, the first state case, the second state case. You can see the story change. It's ridiculous. Okay, so we don't need to go through this, but essentially on December 15th, 2022, Morrison was sentenced. On January 23rd, Morrison filed a claim of appeal. That appeal is pending. On December 15th, Bellar was sentenced. On January 10, he filed his claim of appeal, which is also pending. Neither plaintiff has ever been tried or convicted of a federal charge. But the Michigan Department of Corrections took the unusual step of transferring all three of these men, by the way, to out-of-state federal facilities. Morrison was transferred to Pekin, which is in Illinois. Bellar was transferred to Schuylkill, which is in Minersville, Pennsylvania. The plaintiff's trial lasted over 3 weeks and, together with pretrial hearings, involves complex factual and legal issues. The court file and transcripts are over 7,500 pages. And guys, this is just for the state case. Like, this is not everything. Discovery has not yet been provided. Hello, why did that happen? They didn't even turn over the transcripts. When the transcripts were due, you guys remember I had to make a video complaining about that. And they had to have they had to compel, basically, the court reporter to produce them under threat of being held in contempt and having to pay a fine. That's absurd. The Attorney General has described the latter as 2 terabytes of data, including 150 hours of recorded conversations that none of these lawyers have been able to review. How were they supposed to prepare the appeals briefs? Appellate counsel cannot effectively communicate with plaintiffs Morrison or Bellar with appellate briefs due in February. In fact, there is little communication of any kind occurring. Said problems include letters his appellate counsel sends to Morrison at his BOP facility are not being delivered to him, even after language the BOP wants on envelopes sent to him is included. Farraone knows this through Morrison's wife, who has had some contact with her husband. Plaintiff Bellar has experienced similar problems. Upon information and belief, Morrison cannot send letters to his lawyers because postage cannot be sent to him. Oh yeah, you're not allowed to mail them stamps. And the Bureau of Prisons will not sell him postage. Bellar has experienced similar problems. Appellate counsel can easily meet defendants housed within the Michigan DOC via Polycom or Zoom. That is not true with the BOP facility where Morrison is housed. The Michigan Attorney General at a December 1st Circuit Court hearing indicated the facility where Bellar is housed might be different in that regard, but it's not. In-person visits are not a solution. The AG argued at a recent hearing that Pekin, Illinois is closer than the MDOC's Baraga Correctional Facility where Morrison could, in theory, be placed. But appellate counsel would not need to drive to Baraga every time he wanted to communicate with Morrison if Morrison were placed there. They could communicate via Polycom or Zoom. The same is true of Bellar and the facility in which he is located. Upon information and belief, neither plaintiff has access to any Michigan Law Library legal materials, which again is their right. Upon information and belief, a third party seems to be listening in on attorney-client conversations. They're listening in, and they're not just doing it on the phone calls with their lawyers. They listen in to phone calls they make to their families. They read every letter that these men get, letters I send them and others. And they're doing a lot more than that. This is... Anyways, I will just get angry. So, yes. The Michigan AG, who prosecuted Morrison and Bellar and are defending their convictions on appeal, has talked about helping resolve the problems, but nothing changes and they should not have to go through them. Appellate counsel moved the circuit court to require MDOC to explain why they were transferred to BOP facilities and complained that even if authority exists for said transfers, the effect of transfers violates their 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights and their right to access the courts. On October 27, 2023, a hearing was held. The circuit court, Honorable Thomas Wilson, asked the Attorney General to explain why they were transferred to the federal BOP and adjourned the hearing to December 1st, 2023. And remember, Judge Wilson why is he overseeing the appeal on a case that he tried? That makes no sense. They're literally appealing his rulings to him? What is happening here? On December 1st, to the surprise of appellate counsel, the AG was relieved of any burden to provide an answer. Instead, the circuit court ruled it lacked jurisdiction over the issues raised and indicated that jurisdiction was in the court of claims and denied plaintiffs' bond on appeal. Absolutely absurd. So, anywho, I will include, well, actually, I probably shouldn't, because of how this works here. But essentially, this is ongoing, and I will keep everybody informed about this and about what is going on to these men, because it's not right, and nobody seems interested in helping them. Where is Pete Musico's lawyer? Why has he not joined in on this? What is going on? The briefs are due by February. Where is the discovery? Who's listening in on the attorney-client phone calls in violation of their rights? Will anything be done about it? Who knows? That's it for now, guys. I do want to say, give you guys a quick update. I was able to, thank you, due to your support, your continued support, I was able to get all 5 of these men books and have them sent to them for Christmas. I do not know if they have received them yet. I will find out. It looks like they've been delivered to the facilities, but we don't know if they're actually going to get them, because that's been a problem that their families have been having. I sent them Christmas cards. I do not know that they will get those either. We never know. Like, they don't get mail. It's insane, and it's not right. But I was also able to put some money on their commissaries, and again, I don't know if they're even going to get that, because the BOP has done crazy things, like they've drained their commissary, or they won't allow them to purchase certain items with their money they have on commissary, like postage, so that they can write to their lawyers and their families. This is not right. And this is them actively trying to sabotage these appeals, and they're doing it in the open, brazenly. So I will keep everybody posted on this. And I will have more information for you guys very soon. And that's all for now.